She gave her last $20 to a stranger. Not long afterward, that stranger's grandson asked her to marry him. Lila had been working at Lux & Stone, the most exclusive jewelry boutique in downtown Atlanta, for some time. She arrived each morning to polish the gleaming cases and arrange the sparkling diamond displays, offering smiles to customers who barely noticed her presence. From the very first week, her manager Vanessa had made it clear that Lila was not there to sell the precious pieces. Her role was to run errands, picking up dry cleaning, fetching coffee, cleaning the vault, anything Vanessa preferred not to handle herself. Whenever Lila managed to close a sale despite this, Vanessa found a way to redirect the commission to one of the senior associates, citing some paperwork issue or client reassignment. Behind her back, the senior staff called her the placeholder. Lila knew, but she stayed because she needed the rent money. One ordinary morning began much like the others, slow, chilly, and tinged with quiet humiliation. Lila was carefully rearranging a tray of diamond chokers when the front door opened and an elderly woman stepped inside. She moved with the deliberate care of someone whose joints ached with every step. Her coat was worn thin, her sneakers cracked at the toes, and a faded headscarf covered her hair. She looked as though she had ridden several buses to reach this place and was uncertain if she had found the right one. The senior associates exchanged knowing glances. One of them, Paige, stepped forward before the woman had even approached the display cases. "Can I help you?" The words were polite on the surface, but the tone carried a clear message of dismissal. "I just want to look around," the old woman replied softly. Vanessa emerged from the back room, her heels clicking sharply against the floor, her perfume announcing her arrival before she spoke. She looked the elderly woman up and down with a disdainful gaze. "This isn't that kind of store," she said. "We serve high-end clients. You'd be more comfortable somewhere else." A ripple of laughter moved through the room, quiet but cutting. Lila felt her chest tighten with a familiar ache. She set down the tray, crossed the floor, and gently touched the old woman's arm. "Can I get you some water?" The atmosphere in the boutique shifted. The old woman turned to Lila with surprise in her eyes, as if kindness from a stranger was something she had long stopped expecting. "That would be lovely," she said. Lila brought her a glass of water and found a comfortable chair for her near the side wall. She sat beside her, ignoring the whispers, and offered a warm smile. "Take your time. There's no rush." The old woman's hand came to rest gently over Lila's. Her skin was soft, dry, and marked by the years. "Good things find good people," she said quietly. "Remember that." The words settled deep in Lila's heart. She nodded, not fully understanding why they moved her so much. Then the old woman straightened and spoke words that would alter everything. "I'd like to see 10 luxury sets, your finest ones. Full sets, necklace, earrings, bracelet, and ring." Lila blinked in surprise. 10, the best you have." For nearly an hour, Lila worked with care and focus, selecting the most exquisite pieces, matching stones, checking every setting, and bringing down the velvet trays from the highest shelves. She moved with intention, treating each piece as though it truly mattered. The senior staff watched from a distance, their expressions a mix of disbelief and anticipation of some impending failure. "She's actually doing it," Paige whispered. "Let her." Another replied. "It'll be even funnier when it all falls apart." Vanessa stood with arms crossed, a small, satisfied smile playing on her lips, the kind Lila had come to dread. When Lila finally presented the 10 complete sets, each more breathtaking than the last, the old woman clasped her hands together in delight. "I'll take all of them." The room seemed to stop. Lila could hardly contain her joy as she calculated the total. "That comes to $240,000. Dead silence followed, then a burst of laughter. "Oh my God," Paige said, covering her mouth. The old woman patted her pockets and checked her coat, then looked up with a gentle sigh. "I don't have my card with me, dear." My grandson has it. I'll need to reach him. The laughter grew louder and more open. Vanessa approached slowly, savoring the moment. She stopped close to Leela, close enough for her perfume to overwhelm. You really thought she could afford this? It wasn't a question. Leela turned to the old woman, her voice soft and steady. It's okay. Don't be embarrassed. The old woman met her gaze with calm, clear eyes. I'm not embarrassed, dear. My grandson will come. I just need a moment. A moment. Vanessa laughed sharply. Honey, you don't have a grandson with that kind of money. And even if you did, he wouldn't be coming to pick you up from a jewelry store while you're wearing those shoes. She gestured toward the door. Security can walk you out. The old woman rose slowly, without haste or tears. She simply held Vanessa's gaze for a long moment before turning to Leela. Leela reached into her bag and pulled out her last $20, the emergency money she had been saving. She pressed it into the old woman's hand. For a cab, please. The old woman stared at the bill, her fingers closing around it. When she looked up, her eyes shone with emotion. You are a rare kind of person, Leela. Vanessa's voice sliced through the moment. That's it. You brought a beggar into my store, wasted company time, and now you're giving away money, as if this were a charity. Get your things. You're fired. Leela picked up her bag without a word, without tears or argument. She stepped out into the Atlanta afternoon, standing on the sidewalk blinking in the sunlight, with no job, no plan, and an empty wallet. Behind her, the old woman smiled quietly to herself. The estate lay 40 minutes outside the city. When the cab pulled up to the grand gates, the driver fell silent, glancing repeatedly in the rearview mirror. Inside, marble and light filled every space, along with paintings that belonged in museums and a profound stillness that only true wealth could preserve. Julian stood in the center of the living room when his grandmother entered. At 29, he was the CEO of Crest Holdings, one of the largest private equity firms in the Southeast. He had appeared on magazine covers, and he carried himself with the quiet intensity of a man who was always thinking several steps ahead. Grandma, he said, his voice shifting as he took in her expression. The usual careful tone fell away. Where have you been? She told him everything: the boutique, the dismissive treatment from Vanessa and the others, and especially about Leela. The young woman who had brought her water, sat with her, and given away her last $20 without knowing who she was helping. By the time she finished, Julian's jaw was set. Which store? Lux and Stone. He reached for his phone. That's one of ours. His grandmother raised a single finger. The girl first. They reviewed the security footage together. Julian watched it twice in complete silence. He had seen countless hours of business recordings, performance reviews, and board meetings, but he had never witnessed someone give away their last $20 to a stranger in need. Find her, he said quietly. His assistant Marcus hesitated. Sir. But soon enough, Leela was sitting on a bus bench, scrolling through job listings she could barely afford to be selective about, when a sleek black SUV pulled up beside her. The window lowered, and a man in a tailored suit looked out. Ms. Leela. She stood slowly. Who's asking? My name is Marcus. I'm the personal assistant to Julian Crest, CEO of Crest Holdings. There was a pause. The woman you helped this afternoon is his grandmother. He would like to meet you. Leela stared at him. She knew the name. Everyone in Atlanta knew Crest Holdings. They owned significant commercial real estate downtown, including hotel chains, and now she realized, Lux and Stone itself. She had just been fired from a store owned by the grandson of the woman she had helped. This had to be some kind of trap. Still, she got into the car. The house affected her deeply, not merely its size or the art on the walls, but the extraordinary stillness of the space, as though nothing urgent or chaotic had ever touched it. Then she saw him at the top of the stairs. She recognized him from magazine features, but the photographs, had not captured the presence he carried in person. There was a gravity to him, as if every room he entered had been waiting for his arrival. "Leela," he said, his voice even and calm. "I'm Julian. I know who you are," she replied, then felt a flush of embarrassment at having said it aloud. His grandmother appeared from a hallway, arms open wide. "You came." Something inside Leela softened. "You live here," she said, almost to herself. "I do," the old woman replied with a laugh, squeezing Leela's hands. "Not as poor as I looked, am I?" Julian watched the two of them, his expression still and difficult to read, though something flickered across it for just a moment. His grandmother turned to him and said simply, "She's the one." Leela laughed nervously. "That's not I don't we just met." She looked to Julian, expecting him to share in the humor, but he wasn't laughing. He was simply looking at her calm, steady, and serious. Her heart stirred in a way she hadn't allowed it to in a long time. She stayed on at the estate, intending to leave soon, but Julian's grandmother kept discovering reasons to keep her there a little longer. Then Julian offered her a position as his personal assistant at Crest Holdings headquarters, a competitive salary, full benefits, reporting directly to him. She declined. "Because I don't want to owe you anything," she explained. "And I don't want people thinking I got the job because of who you are." He studied her for a long moment. "You'd be turning down the highest paying PA role in the company." "I know." Another long silence. "All right," he said finally. "Then earn it. Interview tomorrow with my HR team. No favors." She arrived at 8 in the morning and left at 11. She got the job on her own merits. She didn't encounter Sienna until her third day at Crest Holdings. Sienna arrived the way strikingly beautiful yet dangerous women often do in stories like this, immaculately dressed, her heels echoing loudly, radiating an energy that suggested she had already decided to dislike Leela on sight. She was a senior director at the company and had been linked to Julian's name in gossip columns for some time. She looked at Leela the same way Vanessa had looked at the old woman in the store. Leela felt the chill of that recognition settle at the back of her neck. "And you are?" Sienna asked. "Julian's new PA," Leela answered. Sienna smiled, but it never reached her eyes. How convenient. It began with small whispers and rumors. By the end of the second week, half the company had heard that Leela had slept her way into the position, that she was a con artist who had deliberately targeted Julian's grandmother. Leela kept her head down and worked harder than ever, arriving early and staying late. Julian heard the rumors by the 10th day. He called a company-wide meeting, stood at the head of the conference table, and waited for the room to settle. Then he spoke quietly but clearly. "Leela holds her position because she earned it through a process that every one of you can verify with HR. She also happens to be the person who gave her last $20 to my grandmother." When everyone else laughed at her, he paused, letting the words land. "Anyone who has a problem with that should bring it directly to me. Otherwise, this conversation is over." No one spoke. Sienna's face was unreadable. Leela sat very still, feeling for the first time in years as though someone had placed a protective wall between her and the world. This should have made things easier. It didn't. Sienna had one card left to play, and she used it. She went to Julian's mother. Vivian Crest flew in from Charlotte shortly afterward. She was everything one might expect: composed, aristocratic, and utterly convinced she could see through anyone in under a minute. She looked at Leela and saw only a threat. That evening, Vivian appeared at Leela's apartment door. She sat across from her and placed a check on the table. $500,000. "Leave," she said. "Not just the job. Leave my son's life. Take this. Start over somewhere else. I'll make sure no one stands in your way." Leela looked at the check for a long time. Then she picked it up and tore it cleanly in two. "I love your son," she said quietly. "I didn't plan to, but I do. And I'm not going to take money to walk away from something real." Vivian stared at her in a long, appraising silence. Then she stood, smoothed her jacket, and left without another word. The frame-up came next, orchestrated by Sienna. A missing watch valued at $40,000 was discovered in Leela's desk drawer by the cleaning crew conveniently on a day when Sienna had been the last senior person in the building. The call came soon after. Security waited at her apartment door. Marcus was on the phone. "Come in immediately." Leela walked into the Crest Holdings lobby, feeling every eye upon her. Vivian was there. Sienna stood with arms crossed, her expression carefully arranged into concern. A representative from legal stood nearby. "We found the watch, Leela," Sienna said softly. "I'm so sorry." Leela felt the familiar tilt of the room, the same sensation she had known in the jewelry store and in every other place where someone had decided she was less before she had even spoken. She thought about simply walking away. Then Julian entered. He didn't look at Sienna or his mother. He looked only at Leela. "I need everyone to give us the room," he said. He had already reviewed the footage himself the night before, when something had felt wrong. The recording showed Sienna entering Leela's office late in the evening and leaving a short while later. The watch had been placed in the desk drawer in between those moments. 20 minutes after showing it to the room, his mother, the legal team, and the senior staff, Sienna's face drained of color. She tried to protest. "That's not the angle, doesn't show everything." "Sienna," Julian's voice was flat and final. "Don't." Security escorted her out. Later that evening, Vivian found Leela sitting alone in the small garden behind the estate. She sat down beside her without waiting for an invitation. They remained quiet for a while. "I was wrong about you," Vivian said at last. "I've been wrong before. It doesn't happen often, so I'm not very good at it." She paused. "I tried to tear a woman down because I was afraid of what she represented. I understand what that looks like now." Leela met her eyes. "My son loves you," Vivian continued. "That should have been enough for me from the beginning." He proposed to her on the rooftop of Crest Holdings headquarters at dusk, with the city glowing golden beneath them. There was no grand production, no audience, just the two of them and a small velvet box in his hand. "You gave a stranger your last $20, he said. "And then you turned down $500,000 more to stay. I've never met anyone like you, Leela." He opened the box. "I don't want to spend the rest of my life without you in it." She said yes before he could finish the sentence. When the engagement announcement appeared in the papers, Vanessa learned of it at Lux and Stone the same way everyone in Atlanta did. She read the headline once, then again, set her phone down, picked it up, and read it a third time. Then came the second notification. Crest Holdings had completed an internal review of Lux and Stone's management practices. Effective immediately, the store manager position was vacant. She had been dismissed by the man whose grandmother she had thrown out of the store. The boutique fell silent. Everyone remembered what the old woman had said as she left that day. "Kindness is more valuable than expensive diamonds." They hadn't believed her then. Following their wedding, Leela opened the Groundwork Center, a nonprofit dedicated to connecting people in career transition with paid apprenticeships in skilled trades and business. On opening day, she stood before 300 people and spoke from the heart. "I know what it feels like when a room decides you're nothing before you even speak. I want this to be the place where that stops." In the front row sat Julian's grandmother, still wearing her worn headscarf, clapping harder than anyone. Beside her was Vivian, who had quietly and genuinely become someone Leela trusted. And beside Vivian sat Julian, watching his wife as though she were the most important presence in any room she entered, because to him, she was. The old woman had understood it the moment Leela pressed that $20 bill into her hand. Some people reveal who they truly are when they believe no one is watching. That is the only moment that truly matters.